we are so happy to have you all three here today. And yeah, since we've already heard a little bit about your backgrounds, I guess let's get right into it. So how about you guys tell me a little bit about your journey to deciding your major and what exactly excites you about your major?
Yeah, so like I said, I was studying information and decision sciences, or I currently still am. And what that is, just a little bit of background, it has this crossover between supply chain, business analytics, and management information systems. So lots of data, lots of information systems, coding, and supply chain, so like the logistics aspect. So when I decided about my major, it was before I started college. And one thing I knew before going into college is that I wanted to get the best return on investment with my education. So when I chose the major, it wasn't really about, do I really enjoy this? Is this something that I wake up in the morning and this is something I'm totally excited about? There are things that were really compelling about it and things that weren't, but that's how I got to choose my major, and it's been really integral to my success and the internships I've gotten across my undergraduate experience so far.
Yeah, that's really insightful. Noor, do you want to go next about your journey to it?
Yeah, sure. I started coding my sophomore year of high school, so it was pretty early on. I joined Code with Classy to have a bit more experience with coding, and that was really fun. I can tell you now, though, college is not like Code with Classy. Not as fun. But like Esma, I wanted a job that I had a lot of opportunities in. I could go to any company that I wanted. I could work in any environment that I needed to. I could work remote, in person, and CS was the degree that I knew would ensure that. Also, you make a lot of money, so yeah.
Can't forget that incentive. Diana, do you want to tell us a little bit about yours? I think you also had like an early introduction to the world of development.
Yeah, so it started for me in 8th grade. My teacher kind of dragged me into the Girls Who Code Club that they started in school. So I was like, okay, I'll go. Well, they kind of forced me, but I ended up going and I really liked it. We had like 2 mentors that were already in college, and I think they partnered heavily with Accenture, and we had like mentors there. We got to visit different offices around the city during that time. So I think the exposure that I got in 8th grade like really got me excited about the field of coding and technology. And at that time, I will only like learn how to work in Scratch, which is like block-based coding. But when I went into high school, I went into like a health sciences high school at first. And I kind of decided to explore that since that was the focus there. I ended up hating it, but I transferred out of my high school for that reason, because I knew I wanted to go to a more general STEM school to explore technology and other stuff. So that's what I did, and I joined a STEM club, robotics. I did first NYC, and FRC and FTC for a little bit. And then just joined different programs since then. There's a lot of New York-based programs like America on Tech that focuses on web development, and then some other programs that helped me like gain more exposure. So I knew really early on, luckily, that was the major I wanted to do. And then like Nora said, like once I found out about the money you make, it definitely attracted me more. But I'm happy that for me, I haven't started any CS courses for my major in general.
All right. That's interesting. I like the honesty with you started at this high school, you didn't exactly like it didn't really work out, but then you kind of eventually found your path, which I think is very insightful. I guess my next question that I am curious about is 2 things. One, so you've all had some cool internships is what I've seen. So do you guys all mind sharing a project that you've worked on in your internship? And then in addition to that, if you've worked on any other cool project, like a technical project, a coding project, or something for your classes, maybe.
My internship was a spring internship, so it was fairly short. We touched base on a couple of their most recent developments. One of them was with Salesforce. So that was really fun. We got to play around with a sandbox and make our own kind of environment the way that a sales member would at IBM. Sorry. So that was really fun. The
Cool.
coolest project that I've worked on at UIC would probably be an AI one that I worked on last semester. It was a game. So I don't know if you guys have heard of 15 Puzzle. It's a game where you can kind of move around these little tiles and figure out how to make it ordered by number. So that was really fun.
Nice. You were able to make a game and you were able to work with not just IBM, but another company like Salesforce at your internship. That's really cool. Asma, do you want to tell us a little bit about a cool project?
Yeah, so I'm going to backtrack a little bit from my Salesforce experience and go back to DocuSign. I really did have a notable project there, and you'll learn a little bit more about just what sales enablement is as I speak through it throughout the panel. But in this project, so we had this huge upcoming conference for sales, the whole sales organization. So under the sales organization, it can be VPs, it can be customer success, it can be anyone under the umbrella. Even on the tech side, there's solution engineers. So they're the ones putting on the product demos and all that. So when you ask yourself, how do we make a 3,000 person event exciting? And how can we get them engaged and learn about the sales process for the rest of the year? So it's a really exciting time period, but it can be kind of mundane, especially for your average working individual. So it was time for us to come up with a theme. And I was taking my organizational behavior class at UIC, and we did a Harvard education publishing simulation, and it was about leadership. So it was this group of 6 people climbing Mount Everest. Each person had their own role. And I was like, I wanted to be the bold intern. I wanted to take this to the next step and really push myself to the limit, see how my fellow coworkers would respond. And I said, why don't we put together a custom experience for a pre-work experience to this conference, so we get these salespeople excited to engage with the product and the knowledge that they will learn in the conference. So we put together and work with external stakeholders. So those stakeholders with Harvard Education Publishing, and we created a custom simulation. So we had 3,000 people go through that simulation. And along with that came all the instructions. How do we engage international people across the globe? So someone in Tokyo is not going to understand what English. So how do we translate these instructional videos? How do we translate the website to the simulation? That's the kind of project I was working on. So putting together that pre-work, that gamification prior to the conference. So that was a really exciting experience. Since it was Mount Everest, if you guys know what Sherpas are, they're the ones who take you up Mount Everest. So we all dressed up like that, put on some costumes and put together informational video as well as like the actual simulation. So that was really fun.
Wow, that sounds amazing. International, over 3,000 people. Like, look at you go. That's amazing. Diana, tell us a little bit more. So your company actually Solver reshared this event across, like even the CEO reshared it. So I bet you guys are doing some interesting work. Let's hear a little bit about it.
Yeah, the internship that I had for this summer, am I breaking up at all? Because it says my connection is not stable.
Yeah, but we can hear you at the moment.
Okay, hopefully. Yeah. So Solver is a cloud-based software company that has like over 3,000 customers in the corporate performance management space. And they work along under the Microsoft like Azure platform, I believe. And so they basically just provide cloud services and a data warehouse for their clients to do like analytics and performance reviews, mainly for like HR and accounting. And so there, they were going through some changes in their positions. So instead of working on a project, I mainly just helped out with like fixing bugs, working on the front end, improving their UI. I work with UX design, the product designers and the backend developers as well. to just go through like their tickets and their system to improve their interface and make some changes on that as well. So that was really it's my first like front end specific and technical internship. So it was pretty cool.
Nice. It sounds like you had a very technical role very early on. And that leads me to my next question. So a lot of times it's very hard to get internships like your freshman, sophomore year. Usually it's after your junior year where you really are able to find one. So I guess my question is, one, like, how did you guys even like get your foot in the door? Like, as it sounds like all three of you got internships fairly early. And second, did you guys have, so you guys clearly weren't exactly exposed to those in your classes just yet. So how did you gain those skills to get you into this internships, if at all? And Asma, do you want to start us off? Because it seems like you've had many internships. So maybe a little bit about how you got each one.
Yeah, so before I go into my different experiences, my first piece of advice is that never listen to anyone that says no to you, and never say no to yourself, and always believe that there's opportunity. So when I was 15, I was a STEM student at my local high school. So half of my day would go into researching and putting together a project for the entire year. One of the few high schools in Illinois that does that. So with that being said, I was working on a neuroscience project, and I was interning at Northwestern in the neuromuscular division. So yeah, it was a little different than what I planned. However, I knew from the research, the excitement of putting together a proposal, that I was more business oriented. So really just like taking that, knowing that even if that experience doesn't translate to what you want to do in the future, take it young, get that first job, whether it be retail or admin job, and take it as a learning experience, because you never know when you can put together a bullet point on your resume and it matches perfectly with the job description. So that's what I kept on doing. So my first undergraduate internship was a market research internship, and that wasn't exactly what I wanted to do. I went into investments, and it was client servicing, and yeah, I didn't want to do finance, but I took the good parts of it being client servicing, and within COVID, applying to 200 different jobs. I never said no to myself, and it was really tough, but I finally got the job that I really wanted, and I didn't even know I would stumble across something so perfect without just jumping the gun and applying to different opportunities. So always keep your doors open, no matter what it is. You never know what path they'll take you.
Wow, that's amazing. Wow, and that applying to that many jobs, I know that feeling all too well. But yeah, I think that's a very good point. Like, try for something, get your foot in the door somewhere, because eventually it might not be exactly what you're thinking, but it might lead you there. Noor, you want to tell us next about how you got to where you're at?
Yeah, 100%. So mine was a chain of networking. That's kind of how I got into my IBM internship. I started off as a TA with the UIC Winter Guild, hosted by Breakthrough Tech. So I started off as a TA. They really loved me. They invited me to come back for the summer. I was mainly focusing on getting an internship, so I said that I would come back if I didn't have one. So then they started this program called their Breakthrough Tech Sprint Internship, and they invited me to apply, and I applied, and they matched me up with IBM. So I had kept that really close relationship with Breakthrough Tech, and they got me an internship that I really loved, and I really enjoyed with a company that I really wanted to get in the door with. So I'm really happy with that. I still constantly email my supervisors and the developers that I worked with. LinkedIn is very important. Networking is the biggest part, I think, of getting an internship or a job that you really want. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree about like networking and LinkedIn. Like, sometimes it really is, as Safa mentioned in the chat, not exactly what you know, but who you know. So you never know, like someone might be willing to give you a referral. I'm actually doing a career fair for UIC tomorrow, so I'm recruiting heavy for interns. So if you need an internship in development, hit me up. Diana, do you want to go ahead next?
Yeah, so my advice and what I kind of did was like really just try anything and everything and make sure you stay persistent. So in high school, that's basically what I did. I knew I wanted to, another thing is that like you can't only rely on school to get your experiences as well. So you have to like branch out and look for opportunities outside of school. So I applied to like as many opportunities that I saw. that seemed interested to me. Some of them, like, I even had to email them like personally, or for one of my opportunities, I had to do like an extra interview step for it. And so I would say try like anything and everything that you can. You never know what you're gonna gain for the experiments and also where it can lead you to. So like robotics, I wasn't really interested in it, but I ended up doing it. And then from that, I got to participate in a program at Cornell Tech and went there like weekly in my junior year of high school. And so when I went into college, I thought, okay, I'll do the same. And from there, we also have a breakthrough tech in New York. So I did that in January. And that was also a great experience that I went into. So that was mainly the thing that I did, was just like try anything and everything, and stay persistent through experiences.
Yeah, it sounds like being a part of these other organizations have played a big role in kind of guiding your success. Does anyone else want to touch to maybe an organization that they've been involved with that really helped them, you think, get to where you are today? Like for me, for example, when I was an undergrad, I joined an organization called WIX, which is Women in Computer Science. And not only, it wasn't even like an official mentor that I got, I just like got acquainted with like upperclassmen, and they would just tell me about classes, and they would just tell me about like which professors were good, which weren't, and how important it was to get internships. Like I didn't really know too much about that. And Women in Computer Science is also for me what got my foot in the door to this event called Grace Hopper, which is a convention for women in computing. And because I went there, I got so many internship offers. So does anyone else have any organizations like that that you feel really guided your success?
Yeah, I'll go first. For me, I kind of like equally think all the organizations I've been a part of. But there's a few that really stand out to me. One is definitely Built by Girls. So if there are any girls in here that are in high school, college, or even in their careers to mentor. I started it, I think, my sophomore year of high school. And I got matched to advisors throughout the year. So they go through cycles. So you get 3 advisors a year. And that really helped me with like learning how to network, do their events, applying to internships and programs, interviewing as well. So the mentors give you their like undivided attention when you're with them, and they kind of just there to help you with whatever you need. So that was my first like door to networking. I thought it was like really trash in the beginning, and it was so like nerve-wracking as well. But definitely now I feel like I'm more confident in it thanks to them. And yeah, it's been a great organization. They have a big community on Slack. So that's my favorite part about it. They have a lot of channels that you could join and get to know a lot of people. And yeah, it's been a great organization, and I would definitely recommend it.
I know I've also mentioned them a lot, but Breakthrough Tech definitely helped. They're the reason I am also in WIX. A lot of the board members were also part of Breakthrough Tech, and we bonded really well. So they invited me to apply. And after a couple of interviews, they chose me as their outreach chair, which has actually helped a lot with more networking. I get to meet like a lot of professors, a lot of people from these really large companies. It's awesome. So definitely try to become a board member for an organization that you're interested in.
Awesome. That's some great points right there. The next question I'm kind of wondering is, a lot of people think you need to have a computer science degree to work in tech, when in reality there's all these roles like data analytics or data science or cybersecurity, or even USMA, sales enablement. USMA, do you mind touching a little bit more on how someone with maybe a major in econ or something else might be able to find their way into tech?
That's a really good question. I think it has to do more with your alignment to opportunities. So what are you involved in? What do you look for? And like the experience that I mentioned earlier, are you seeking out opportunities. And I think that keeping your options open is definitely the way to go when it comes to breaking into other areas of tech. I do think that it is a little hard to get into tech, especially the business side, just point blank right away. I think that it does require some level of previous knowledge, and I'm not saying you can't do it without it, but it definitely is quite challenging. So getting those early experiences and being involved in school. I know we talked about organizations earlier, but trying to grasp onto leadership roles in school, trying to see if those things help you is definitely really big. But another thing that's really cool and kind of tricky about applying to tech companies and breaking into like the business side is that ATS, like applicant tracking systems, and knowing how to take that job description and taking your previous experience and aligning it as close as possible to that without lying is definitely one of the biggest keys, and that's definitely has put me through the door to the tech side and being on that business side. So that definitely helped me, and I had those previous experiences, but I was able to kind of elaborate on it more with like knowledge of like ATS systems and HRIS, so human resource systems, and just getting yourself acquainted with those things. I think preparing yourself for the what's behind all of it, and getting started young is definitely something that's really important.
I guess like a follow-up to that would be, so if you're someone who does not have a computer science degree and you kind of want an internship, like what do you think like the skill set, or what do you need to make yourself like a viable candidate to get those internships? Like you mentioned, it's a little challenging. So what can you do to make it a little easier for yourself?
Yeah, I think it doesn't take anything necessarily special. I think that getting yourself familiar with software as a service companies as a whole. So let's just say interview comes by, you know, like what the company does, what their values are, what their product is. I think that's really important. I do have a tech degree, so I can't speak to this fully, but there's definitely people in finance or accounting that have gotten accounting and finance roles in these companies, and it depends on how you want to position yourself and why you want to work. I think knowing the why is the most important. I can't say that I'm completely like business and I got in because I was only business. They were definitely intrigued by the fact that I had a technical background, so taking like my database technology, Java, but I think those experiences, so just like sophomore year, you see an opening for quite an entry level internship, go ahead and apply and see what happens, and making sure that you're taking note of like those small opportunities that come your way, especially if those internships don't come your way. Getting involved in organizations is really important.
All right. That's awesome.
Really great point. I think also to build on that, certifications are really important. Those really large companies like Amazon and Google, they offer so many certifications. And I know a lot of people that don't have a CS degree, they don't have a tech degree, but have really amazing tech jobs from these certifications. So if you're really interested in just getting your foot in the door, but you're not interested in going back to school and getting that tech degree, these certifications are always a really, really great, route to take.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think LinkedIn Learning can be your best friend, and I know with UIC you get that for free. So taking some courses and along the interests are really important too.
Awesome. And yeah, that's a really great point. Like there are careers and majors in tech that aren't necessarily computer science, like Asma's majoring in information decision sciences, which has a bit of other things too. Noor, since you added something on, I was wondering, can you add in a little bit more about what makes you a viable, maybe software engineering candidate for an internship?
I think because of all of the intense languages that we've learned, like C++, C, Java, we're just doing everything. We're just talking, well, we started it off with the basics, and we've had such intense projects, I think is why software engineering is usually the route that a CS major would go. I'm more interested in the UI, UX. Part of it, which is a little disheartening because UIC until this year didn't even have a CS type major for UI UX, but they've actually integrated a couple more majors in the CS name with the other colleges. So they have a CS in design, data science major. They've got all those other options. So I think CS is really great because you can do a lot of things with it. You can go into product management, you can go into software engineering, front end development, back end development. You've got that whole spectrum. You can do data science because they give you all of these experiences with all of these languages and all of these courses. It's honestly such a pain, but it is worth it.
Awesome. And I guess something I would add on as someone who does hire like software engineering interns, I think the things that I look out for is one, the biggest thing is just seeing that you're someone who can work collaboratively with people. Like you have to be a team player if you're going to work in any technical team, because there is a lot of interaction with business, there's interaction with other developers. It's very collaboration heavy. And another thing I say, if I'm talking about more of the technical aspect, I will say data structures. So it's not even anything too complex. Just know how to solve like a simple problem. Like you can just search top 100 software engineering interview questions, and that's something I literally pull from. So like a simple data structure question. And then lastly, just people wanting in those interviews, they want to hear how you think. So being able to communicate your process. I think communication is so big, whether it's just between people or between explaining your work. I think that's something to work on when you're trying to look for an internship during this process.
100%. I tell everybody that even if you're an MCS major, take CS 251. That is the data structures class at UIC. It changes your life. It takes you just like from someone who's interested in coding to an actual developer, because it teaches you how to problem solve, how to think like a developer, and how to look deeper into your code and how to make it better. So that is one thing that I always tell everybody to take, even if you're an MCS or an IDS major, try to take CS 251. That is such a great point, Sarah.
Awesome, thanks. So we've talked about a lot of the technical parts. I want to move in a little bit more about the other parts of your guys' journey. So you're all women, you're all people of color, and some of you got introduced to it at different points. I was kind of wondering for each of you to touch on this a bit, kind of like what challenges, even if it's not necessarily about your identity, but what challenges have you faced and how have you overcome it so far? Whoever wants to start off with this.
Yeah, I can go. So one challenge that I faced, and this was quite recently. So I was a part of the Salesforce Future Force program. So that's the summer internship program, but I was interning at a different, like just how Slack was acquired by Salesforce. There's another company called MuleSoft. So I worked at that company within the Salesforce umbrella. And coming into the Future Force class, I think I faced a lot of imposter syndrome. They're a large class of 500 different interns, but all from target schools. And that was, and most of them being software engineer interns, you know, it was really hard for me to like overcome that imposter syndrome of feeling like I don't belong here and there's no one like me here. But I think throughout the internship, instead of beating myself up for it, I thought to myself that this is a unique opportunity and unique place you're in, and you're here to teach others about what you do, and that's a really unique and nice spot to be in. So really started getting out of my comfort zone, and that was a big challenge. And you know, you get to a place where you're really happy about getting into one of the like top tech companies and excited about getting there, and then you feel defeated by something like imposter syndrome. And that's something that, you know, sometimes I don't feel proud of it. And throughout that internship journey, I actually had to battle through my own thoughts and get to a point where I was finally happy. And I think a lot of people don't talk about that, and how just because you got it doesn't mean that you feel the success of it right away. And it took time for me, and that's something to share with others that don't feel like you're alone in this, and that you deserve to be where you are because you worked really hard. So that's something was challenging for me.
Esma. Just believing in yourself and your abilities is the hardest part about, I think, being just anybody. I recently had someone message me on Instagram asking about CS, and I had told her the start of every semester is the worst part for me because I can never truly believe that I can get through it. I always think about dropping CS and doing something different. And she told me she was shocked that I said that because I seemed perfect, which is so shocking because something that you don't realize is that everyone is like going through their own, problems. They have their own doubts, their own fears. And when you see something like Instagram and you're only seeing what people want you to see, you tend to think that you're alone in your head, and like you're the only one that's having trouble. So I think realizing that everyone is kind of battling through something and going through difficulties, you kind of feel better because you don't feel like you're the only one struggling. You have that sense of community, I guess. But yeah, I told her I am not perfect. Please get that out of your head. I think I struggle just as much as anybody else.
Yeah, that's so interesting because people like when on the outside looking in always think you're perfect, you did everything perfect to get here, and it's like the crying behind the doors, the stress, the anxiety behind it. It's like you never know what someone's going through until you like hear about it from them. So yeah, good point.
Thank you all.
Yeah, echoing.
Diana. Yeah, sorry, Diana, go ahead. I was just going to ask you. I was very curious to hear your perspective.
Yeah, echoing what Asma and Noor said, like definitely the personal like aspect of it. So for me, definitely the imposter syndrome and anxiety. Just similar type of experience. The one thing that helped me shift my mindset with imposter syndrome, and not that I don't face it or wouldn't in the future, was like I heard that it's to look on the bright side is also like a good thing that you experience, because if you did all of that and you went through some struggles to make it to the place that you made it to, and you feel like, well, maybe you don't fit in or you don't deserve it, definitely shows like the work you put in, and also the people you're around is it's also an accomplishment. So that's like one way that I like help myself to like decompress it. But in terms of my identity, like I definitely had throughout my time like been the only girl in some places, the only, even though being in schools with like mainly people of color, like the only Black girl as well, like throughout high school in my experiences. So definitely facing some experiences with like being the only girl and having people like doubt your abilities or asking you like basic questions and stuff like that. So I don't know, I think you definitely have to expect those to come, but also know that they don't define or overshadow like the great things that are happening as well.
Yeah, Diana, I think that's a very great perspective. I think I can benefit a lot from that as well. I think I struggled with this, and I still do, to be honest, in my career. There are some days where you're like, I'm just so stuck, but you have to just keep pushing yourself. And keeping that in mind, Diana, I'm curious, is there anyone, I know you talked a little bit about how you got to where you are, but do you mind telling us like what motivates you and what has inspired you to be where you are?
Sure, yeah. So for me, I am a first gen student. So my parents um actually from Mali, which is in West Africa. And I come from a big family as well. So I have 9 other siblings. I'm the middle child. So definitely having like older siblings to look up to, and also looking at from like where I come from. Not a lot of how would I put it? The neighborhood I would say I grew up in, college wasn't something that was pushed for. Now it is, but I guess before it wasn't. And then, yeah, I think just mainly like the circumstances and experiences that I've been through. So I know that I have like younger siblings that look up to me as well, which is helping me to push forward, and also like cousins as well. And every time anybody asks me what my major is in my family, I'm like so excited to tell them, and then they're like really shocked and surprised. And it's definitely a good feeling, like me and my older siblings being the first ones to go to college and graduate and then enter the corporate space. So that's what definitely pushed me.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people have a lot to be proud of you for, Diana. You, mashallah, like you, oh, actually, I think you didn't touch on much on this, but you were part of that Google CSSI program as well. Um, and you just this internship, even like the CEO of your company reposting you, like that is amazing. But yeah, since we're here, do you mind just telling us all a little bit more about maybe the Google CSSI program, and we can backtrack just a little bit and talk a little bit about more of these other programs that are out there for people earlier in their maybe college or high school career.
So CSSI is Google's program for rising college freshmen that are interested in majoring in CS. Have so you don't have to already have experience with CS. You just have to show an interest in it, and they really want to just bring more students into the major, and also introduce them to Google and what Google does. So I did that last summer. Yeah, last summer. And unfortunately, it was virtual, but surprisingly, it was like one of the best programs that I went through because of the way that they structured it and had it. So it was a 4-week program that was live code alongs, and then we also got into groups and did different projects. We met with Google engineers and people in different roles as well. And we also worked on a project at the end. So my project was like a space exploration program that I worked with 2 other girls. So during programs like that, they of course like we want you to pursue a career in CS and a degree in CS, and you're not alone, and also there will be challenges and stuff like that, but it's important to stay persistent and that you belong here. So that was one of the main things that they wanted to push, and I definitely felt that from that program. And then there's a lot of other college programs that you can join as well. Honestly, there's a lot of popping up as well. So if you go online to Google and you search them up, rewriting the code is another great one for women interested in technology, built by girls, breakthrough tech, color stack. There's like so many programs now. There's a new program called Takeoff Institute, a fellowship that I did. So you can find a community really anywhere, locally in your school. Start one if there's none in your school. And yeah, it's like so much support. I feel like I have everything that I need to succeed. So at this point, it's like I can't fail at all. Nothing can go wrong. But there's so many ways that you can get support and community within like your journey.
Oh, that's awesome. So it sounds like tonight I've heard of a lot of organizations. So there's Google CSSI, there's Breakthrough Tech. We have that both in New York and in Chicago. There's Code with Classy that Noor did. And then I feel like I'm forgetting some. Built by Girls. Asma mentioned the importance of just applying for any internship and slowly getting in there through tech. So Asma interned at DocuSign, Salesforce, and like eventually got her dream position, which is so cool. So yeah, it sounds like you just really need to get your foot into the door, learn about these different organizations, and it seems like it'll guide you there. Okay, so I'm thinking this is a good time to switch into the Q&A session. So audience members, feel free to start posting any questions. It looks like, yeah, so if audience members have any questions, feel free to start posting them. In the meantime, can you all share your last pieces of advice before we shift into there? And Noor, can we start with you? Sorry, Noor, do you mind sharing your, yeah, there you go.
Hello, sorry, but my internet cut out for a second.
I was just wondering if you'd share some last pieces of advice before we wrap up into Q&A.
Yes, I would suggest for anyone, especially if you're a freshman or if you're a sophomore, look into your college and see if there are any of those internship applications or programs like GPIP for UIC or that offer or connect you with these companies that offer internships. They also are really great with research if you're interested in researching. Talk to your professors. A lot of them are looking for students during the summer to help with their research opportunities. And don't be afraid to just apply. Apply. If there's anything you're interested in, make sure it's something that you like, but apply to as many internships as you can. And don't beat yourself up over an opportunity that passed you by because it may not be written for you. And always believe in God. Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, everyone. This is awesome. And I did just have one question to ask you too, because I'm thinking about my time when I was at college, and it brings back a lot of memories of me like being in the tutoring center for hours, just going to this one TA. And I just love to know, like, how do you guys approach a difficult subject? Or, I think a lot of times people don't talk about the things they struggle with in school, whether it's classes. Like, I think people know, like, oh, I know this class is hard, but how do you guys approach something where you're either having a difficult time learning the topic, and maybe Diana, Noor, you can talk about more of the technical aspects like coding, and Asma, maybe you can talk about just generally, like, are there things that you found challenging while you were studying, and how did you approach that? I know folks know about different resources on campus, but did you have any strategies that helped you get through that?
Yeah, I can start. I would say the first thing is to try to get over your mental roadblocks. So you have to like believe that you're not bad at it. Because I used to say I'm bad at chemistry, but I'm not bad at it. So you have to like really get over those mental roadblocks that you're bad at something, or that you can't get over it, or it's not learned, or it can't be learned. So definitely having a growth mindset about anything that you go into and stay open-minded. And then while going through those challenges, like the most important thing is to like recognize that you're struggling, and then asking for help is a really big one. So don't stop until you get your solution or answers to some stuff, and then reaching out to anybody or anything that would help you to get over that. So yeah.
100%. Ask your TAs, ask your professors for help. If you've got a large project, which is something that I struggle with, I tend to look at a big picture, which is something you need to do, but not throughout the entire, coding project. Kind of bite off chunks that you know that you can handle, so you're not overwhelmed, right at the start, because when you're overwhelmed, you tend to get unmotivated, and when you're unmotivated, you don't do as well. So if you are intimidated by a coding project or a prompt, look at a big picture at first, but just recognize what pieces you can take apart and bring back together, and what pieces you can work on at each stage. And then focus on that.
That's really great advice, Nora. I actually think about that a lot. Like, I think part of the reason why people think coding is so hard is there's so many out there. But I think one advice that I got, and I didn't learn this until I actually got into the workplace, is like, know your basics, right? So find out like what are the basic parts of the language that you're struggling with. Is it a for loop? Like, what are the things that are tripping you up? And then build up from there. So that's great advice. Thanks for sharing that. And I think Asma, you had your mic unmuted for a sec.
Yeah, so on the business side, I still had like my data and coding projects as well. But I think one of the biggest things that helped me, along with active recall, all of those little study tips, is networking with your peers and building a community around some of these harder classes. You guys are your allies in this class, and you guys will like everyone in that class is integral to your success as well. So when you can use your peers, go ahead and network with them, and 90% of the time your peers are also struggling with what you're struggling with, and you'll begin to realize that you're not alone. So definitely having someone to have your back in these classes is very really helpful. And a lot of my harder classes in UIC business was I can thank my peers and my friends from organizations and the Business Scholars Program to like guide me through, as well as me helping them with their some of their issues that they faced.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's a really great point. It's just finding your tribe quite literally in school, whether it's like one person that can really help you out or even your TAs, just create a network that you guys can utilize from. So there's a question to, maybe we can ask Diana actually that Maz posed. He has a cousin in high school who wants to major in computer science, but is intimidated too. So I guess any general advice for anyone who's younger, wants to pursue it. There's a lot of scary myths out there about computer science and all of that. So I guess how to overcome that.
Yeah, that was definitely me once. I think when I first started out, I was definitely intimidated by it, and I would say definitely encourage him or her, her to like seek out advice from other students or people that she knows in the industry or like that is interested in that. So I would say I had like some friends in it that were interested, that we went through it together. I think another thing that helped me was like, I went on a couple of company visits throughout like high school to different companies in the city. And that was a major thing that helped me to like see that there are other people that might look like me in these companies, and companies that like push for belonging in their companies, to show that, okay, I can work here. So I think without that, it would have been a little bit more harder to like imagine myself working there. So definitely representation is really important. But it could feel like lonely throughout the day being the only girl in these industries and roles, and even in your classes. So I don't know, any way you can encourage her to like push through and keep going, and know that, and tell her that there is a space for her in this.
Yeah, that's really helpful. I think that's a huge part is I also think the intimidation doesn't necessarily go away either. So it's hard. I think as you get deeper into your courses too, you realize there's so much more to learn, and it's just something you have to manage along the way. But that's a great point. And yeah, Wasim, I'm with you. I think math is honestly one of the tougher parts too, and no one really talks about that. But when I was a computer science major briefly, I think that's the part I struggled with too, was the coding. And then you have these other really difficult classes like Calc 2, like the math that can really make things challenging. So I think that's a great point, that it's hard to balance everything in totality with the major too. Cool. And I know we're only a few minutes before we wrap up, and just want to tell our panelists, Asma, Diana, Noor, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time and your insights. It's really great to see people, one, just excelling as Muslim women in their careers, and two, just seeing how approachable you guys are as well with your advice. It's amazing, and honestly gives me so much hope for the future. So wish you guys all the best of luck. And to our audience as well, thank you so much for joining, especially on a Thursday night. I know school just started back up, so appreciate your time. And we have a lot of cool events coming up. Our team is growing, so if you guys want to be a part of Muslim Women in Tech, reach out to me and Sarah. We're actively recruiting for our board right now. And additionally, we have a cool cybersecurity event. We do big tech events. So in the past, we've had Microsoft, Google, Facebook, Twitter, and it's just great to see Muslim representation. And again, we're here as a resource for you. So yeah, with that being said, if you guys want to throw in your LinkedIn's, connect with people, we'll leave this on for 2 minutes. Other than that, feel free to hop off. And yeah, thank you so much again, Asma, Diana, and Noor.
And one last thing, our October event will also be a recruiting event. So it'll be a company that will be hiring for interns. So if you're interested, yeah. But yeah, thank you to our speakers.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Hope everyone has a great night. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you for having us.
Of course, yeah, thanks all.
Thank you, everyone. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I just post my profile there and ask any questions. Thank you, Sarah and Safa, as well. It was great meeting you guys. And I'm looking forward
definitely. To thank you guys. If you need anything ever, just reach out to us. All right. Take
have
care.
a good night.
If anyone has any questions, feel free to end. Okay. Yes, I think we can end.
All right. Take care, everyone. Salam.